Hello guys, welcome to another episode of Clues, Cues and Reviews, and today I bring you Fairy Tale chapter 473, Red Lightning. Before we get into the reviews, for those that haven't come across Fairy Tale in the past, for those that are looking to expand and try some new things, Fairy Tale is basically a guild, but more than that, it's a world full of magic, where we have endless possibilities of magics, and it's the journey of members of the Fairy Tale Guild on their paths to become master wizards and live lives. Everyone has their own backgrounds, everyone has their own motivations, and we get to see how each character's play out their kind of the destiny, so to speak, and their journeys to get to where they need to be. Before getting into the review though, just the normal formalities of any video that I do. If there's something you enjoy about these videos, please leave a thumbs up and leave it in the section below. If there's something you dislike, please leave a thumb down, and if you haven't done already, please subscribe. I will leave a button throughout the video for you to subscribe at any point. But without further ado, let's get into the review. So the review of this chapter, we'll start off with the summary. The summary pretty much is a very Laxus versus Wahl intense chapter, and really focuses on their battle and the conclusion to the battle. It is very to and fro, where with right now Wahl at the beginning of this chapter dominating, and Laxus on his last legs. There's a lot of, like I said, to and fro's, and by the end of it we get to see some red lightning. We also get a flashback in there. It's quite interesting stuff. So without further ado, let's get into the 5-point review. So point number one, Laxus, the lightning dragon slayer's body is failing from the previous arc's issues with his anti-magic or magic barrier particles that he absorbed in the Tartarus arc. So because of that, his body hasn't recovered. He is still suffering from the effects or the after effects of this. So because of that, he's in a weakened position. Obviously, Wahl's transformed to assault mode and he starts going in. So he lands this devastating punch that sends Laxus flying, and then the barrages start. He starts off with a missile bombardment barrage and also an anti-matter laser barrage, which effectively leaves Laxus barely hanging in there. You can see he's almost practically dead. So Wahl is adamant that he wants to finish off Laxus, bearing in mind he's already calculated the time, so he's really going in for the kill. And that's pretty much how we start off with point number one. Point number two, the bombardment and the assault does not stop there. So the next attack that he picks is a railgun bombardment attack, which he's using to pierce through Laxus's body. The problem is he uses a lightning element attack, which, but for all intents and purposes, on a normal guy would absolutely pierce and destroy a person's body. Unfortunate for Wahl, he makes a miscalculation in which he even admits himself that the lightning attacks are probably not the best thing to fight against Laxus with. Much like if you were a fire user, you would not do that against Laxus, because against Natsu, sorry, because he is a fire dragon slayer and it wouldn't work against him, which is pretty much what happens. Laxus gets a charge out of this and he can then counter, which Wahl is surprised by this. At the same time, Wahl is actually resistant to lightning, so he goes, yeah, it's fine, it's not a problem. But what he realizes though, he goes, this is the second miscalculation. The fact that he's overlooking that means that now Laxus has lasted longer than he initially calculated, so he's made two miscalculations already. So that's point number. So point number three, with the last counterattack that Wahl takes and realizes his second miscalculation, Laxus begins to struggle again. So even though he's got to reach out, the effects of this anti-matter, this anti-magic, this barrier magic particles that he's absorbed means that Laxus is now at his limit. Realizing this, Wahl goes in for the kill, but as he's doing that, Laxus makes a last-ditch effort to do something. He chooses barrier magic. So this barrier magic was taught to him by Freed, and he thinks to himself, he goes, there's very few people that can actually counter your barrier magic. He's thinking to himself, Laxus is, but if there was, this would be the perfect person to cure my illness. So while he's thinking this, Wahl cancels the barrier magic, the particles in that space which Wahl and Laxus are in, which basically means Laxus is cured. So point number 4, Wahl's been tricked. Now, a brilliant last-ditch scheme saves Laxus and actually cures him from this illness. This is going to be an important factor later on in the story, because now that this is gone, this illness is gone, hopefully this will leave Laxus in a better position or health-wise for him for the further battles. So, before this battle continues, we have a little flashback, and it's a conversation between Laxus and the first guildmaster of Fairy Tail. And she basically talks about Yuri, and she goes, Yuri would be your great granddad, and he's basically Makarov's father, and effectively he was an energetic, cheerful guy, and he goes, you resemble him a lot. And Laxus he goes, how do I resemble him? I'm not even like him. I'm not even energetic. I'm not even, friendly. Because even at one point, I wanted to separate the guild based on what he did previously. When Makarov was down. This was quite a while ago in the story, so if you haven't really read that part, it's definitely worth going back, because you get to see a battle between Laxus, Kajil, and Natsu. But he goes, regardless of your differences, the one similarity still remains. You will do everything within your power to protect your friends, and that's where what he's inherited, and that's the heart that he's inherited from his great grandfather and his grandfather. The heart to protect your friends and those you hold dear, which is point number 4. And then we get point number 5, leaving the best to last, red lightning. So I'm going to read out the actual translation. It says, Mercury fulminate thunder god technique. And it's a lightning that surpasses lightning. Much like my earlier review, what I mentioned last week's chapter, red lightning is where other forms of atoms and elements are absorbed into the atmosphere to create a different form of lightning, red lightning and blue lightning. And that's basically what this is. This is the next step of Laxus' evolution. Are we going to see a blue lightning coming soon? I hope to see that. But this lightning, this red lightning, surpasses his original power, which is the third miscalculation that Wahl does, which is ultimately his demise. This ends the battle. So you got to bear in mind, he's made 3 miscalculations, and ultimately the message in this chapter, above everything else, above the protecting your friends and going above and beyond, and him inheriting the heart of his grandfather and his great grandfather, it's important to bear in mind that sometimes you can't put a factor on certain kind of intangible assets. So the fact that you couldn't make, he made a miscalculation about the lightning, that he made the miscalculation about the resolve and the drive of Laxus, and the miscalculation of how powerful and how much he could grow when backed into a corner. Ultimately, there are some things you cannot calculate overall in your battles, and this was shown before when Laxus fought against Juranakis in the World Magic Games, where he took down the ranked 5th Wizardly Saint, which is important considering the Wizardly Saint didn't do so well against God Serena, and now that the beast that is Acnologia is hunting the Dragon Slayers, it's more than important at this point for him to be at the top of his game and see if he can handle Acnologia Laxus anyway. But that's point number 5. Let's get into final thoughts. So an amazing chapter. My final thoughts. I am glad that Laxus isn't dead. I'm glad that we got to see some red lightning. I hope we're going to see some blue lightning at some point. And we get to see another step in the evolution of Laxus. What this does mean, it does set a precedent for the rest of the Dragon Slayers, and it hopefully will show that they will evolve, kind of like how Natsu's fire quality evolves, kind of like how Gajil kind of used other forms to create iron and stuff like that in the Tartarus Act, I believe it was. So the idea of evolution, the ideal of growth from the young generation is very important in the final battles, and it does take out one of the Spriggan 12. So as powerful as they are beatable. Unfortunately for the Spriggan, they really need to stop overestimating themselves and stop underestimating the enemy, because once they make that mistake, they're going down. But that's all for me today. Please like, comment, subscribe and share, and hopefully we'll see you in the next one.